Hello, Spookaroos. This is your host, Eric D., and this is Spooky Times with Eric D. So that works out nicely. This is a remix episode. That means it's an episode of the show formerly known as Spooky Ass Shit. And this one is all about the true story that partly inspired the movie Jaws. It's not about the movie Jaws, although we might talk about that a little bit. It's about the Jesey Man-Eater, which is a very interesting story. And this is a good episode featuring my friend and yours, Brian Toney. So enjoy. This subject came to me because I was thinking it's actually been almost exactly 100 years since the subject we're going to talk about tonight. Now, Brian doesn't know what it is. You listening to this probably do because you've seen the episode title.
It's World War One.
It's during World War One, but
Okay.
It's got nothing to do with World War One
All right,
in and of itself.
good. Not much of a history scholar.
Good. I mean, okay.
We don't like those.
Yeah, fuck your history. But before we get into it, I just want to remind people to check out spookyasshit.com. From there, you can find links to all our social media accounts. Jaws. Not the actual movie, but the true story that inspired Jaws.
Wait, really? That was that in the tagline? Like, inspired by true events?
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
But it was.
But it actually
inspired by
was
true
in real
events.
life?
Yeah.
Well, that's weird.
Well, Jaws came from the book Jaws by Peter Benchley.
Right.
But Peter Benchley got his idea
From a thing that happened.
from an actual event that happened.
Okay, I have a lot of questions already.
You want to shoot some at me, and we'll see how.
I'm assuming that the things that actually happened was a sleepy little town was terrorized by either one or more shark attacks or something, and maybe it was even a great white. But what I want to know is, in real life, was there a motley crew of folks that went out in a small boat to try to catch said shark? Because that would be amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it.
All right. So what we're talking about happened back in July of 1916.
Okay.
So just about 100 years ago. We start on July 1st, 1916. Beach Haven, New Jersey, which is like your typical boardwalk town.
What's the town called in Jaws?
Amity,
Oh, okay.
and it's in New York.
All right.
So, slight difference.
Okay. Beach Haven's actually like better. That would have
Yeah.
been better.
So it was a very hot summer, and as you said, during World War I, tensions were probably a little bit high. So it's nice to be able to go down to the Jersey shore and take a little relaxation time.
Let's do some recreating.
Yeah. That is the idea that Charles Van Sant had. He was a 25-year-old stockbroker, and he decided he was going to go down to the beach. I'm not sure. He had a dog with him. I couldn't figure out if this was his dog or just a dog that like he found on the beach that he started playing with.
Okay.
But he had a dog with him.
Right. It's just how things were in 1916.
Yeah.
You would go down, find a dog, adopt it immediately.
So he's like throwing sticks out into the water, and the dog's running out and bringing him back.
I don't like this.
Bringing him back. So then he decides he's going to go swim after the dog. So he goes out to swim after the dog. But the dog turns around and heads back to shore. And he was like, I'll show that dog. I'm going to keep going. So he swims up, but he only goes about 50 feet out. And the dog is already turned around. The dog is safe on the beach. Don't worry.
All right.
Dog's fine.
50 feet. That's enough to show a dog.
But he goes out about 50 feet, and then all of a sudden, reports from people who were on the beach say, he starts screaming. And everyone just kind of thought like, oh, maybe he's like screaming at the dog. But
you
then,
like that?
Suck it, dog. I went out way further than you little asshole.
He probably died.
Yeah, so the lifeguard notices, and he and another bystander on the beach swim out to rescue Charles Van Sant. So they grab him, and then they see the shark, and they say that the shark followed them to the shore. And they find a gaping wound on his left thigh. So they bring him in to the beach's manager's office, beach or boardwalk, I'm not sure. It just said the manager's office, where unfortunately Charles Van Sant bleeds out on the desk and dies.
Yep. Femoral artery.
So
That'll happen.
That is victim number 1.
Is
July
that
1st.
Is that significant? Is that weird that like sharks follow?
Well, it was weird for a number of reasons. I would imagine it is weird that the shark would follow all 3 of them, maybe. But weirder than that is that at the time, sharks were not thought of as dangerous creatures. This is the first recorded shark attack in American history.
Okay.
In fact, I have a quote that I want to pull up. Let me answer the door, folks. There's a quote that I found and lost, so I can't tell you who it was by or why he had any authority to say something on the matter, but trust me, it was in there somewhere. He was saying that, sharks are very gentle creatures and we really have nothing to be afraid of. And he was basically saying, like, if you can find me one single person who's been attacked by a shark without provocation, I'll pay you, however much money he agreed to pay. So, and that was in like 1897 or something like that.
Yeah.
So for a long time, no one was able to collect on it. And then after these attacks, he had to admit that, yeah, okay, sometimes they are dangerous.
Yeah, well, provocation can be kind of sticky.
Yeah.
Like, you're in my space.
Yeah.
Don't like it. Chomp.
People weren't really even suspecting that this was a shark at first because they'd never heard of a shark attack on anybody.
It's interesting, but what else are you coming up with that's taking a huge chunk out of a guy's thigh?
There was one man who wrote in and said, well, first of all, the doctor said right away this was a shark attack. The doctor did the autopsy.
Good job.
Yeah. But people, even then, still didn't believe it. And there was a man who wrote in to the authorities and said, no, this isn't a shark attack. I know what this is. It's a goddamn sea turtle. I've seen these things. They're vicious. They can take bites out of you like that.
Enormous bites.
Yeah.
With their teeth.
This was a sea turtle.
The
the rows and rows
that turtles have, yeah.
Razor sharp teeth that they have.
If only we had YouTube back then.
Yeah.
Sea turtle conspiracy theorists.
There was another conspiracy that it was a German U-boat.
That's fantastic.
Firing off some new kind of weaponry.
Yep. Our new torpedoes have teeth.
And are shaped like a shark.
Yep.
And biologically identical to a shark.
No one's going to see it coming. I'll say that.
I think they did that in Batman. In the Batman movie, the original one. I think there were robotic sharks or something.
I like it.
Yeah. Anyway. A shark had never attacked an American.
Yeah.
Right, but like sharks had attacked people in the world, in history. So people knew that sharks like could attack. But it had never happened in America, so they were assuming not only because America is such an awesome, badass place, but because they just figured sharks aren't feeding when they get up here for some reason. They're not as prone to attack. They have a healthier food supply or whatever the cause may be, but they're not prone to attack in the North Atlantic.
It's not unreasonable.
Yeah.
Still a relatively small sample size, like, or 150 years old at that point.
Now, I'm going to get into this a lot later on. We'll discuss, but there was some debate as to whether this was a white shark or a bull shark. So, because this was so rare, town officials, just like in the movie Jaws, decided, well, the beaches should stay open because, there's a lot of tourist dollars coming in. We need the money. Town needs the money. Yes, this happened, but it was a freak thing. They even sent out, letters saying, yes, this was a horrible accident, and we've heard all sorts of things about, sharks being sighted, and there's kind of a hysteria going on right now. But really, probably what happened is the shark accidentally floated in at high tide and got trapped. And then he just kind of stuck around and panicked and was hungry and was agitated, and so that's why he attacked. But when the tide came back in, he probably went out again. He's gone. Nothing to worry about. Everybody's safe. Everyone go swim, have fun, spend your money.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds possible at the same time.
Right.
Not that it wasn't grossly self-serving, but
right.
Also plausible.
Then on July 6th, in Spring Lake, which is 45 miles north of the Van Zandt attack site, 27-year-old Charles Bruder went canoeing after work. He was a bellman at an area hotel. And some ladies who were walking on the beach noticed that his canoe had capsized and that he was struggling in the water. So they went and told the lifeguard.
Well, he's ocean canoeing?
He was just, well, it is the ocean, but it's not like, it's on the little beach. Yeah, I guess.
Okay. It's already interesting.
Honestly, the way it was written, it's a little unclear as to whether there was just a canoe nearby or if he was actually in the canoe, but it said that the canoe had capsized. They saw a capsized canoe.
Okay.
So it's possible the shark bumped it and tipped it over.
I guess so, but...
And then this guy's struggling in the water, and they can hear him yell help. The women hear him yell help. And they can see that the water is turning red. So they run off to get the lifeguard.
Nice. Well, bellmen can't canoe.
Yeah, I've heard that.
That's an old stereotype.
Yeah. My mom used to say that all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as true anymore, but...
Yeah. So 2 lifeguards get a little boat, and they row out and pull him up. He's still alive, but barely. And they pull him out of the water, and they see the abdomen bite, and they're like, oh, that's not good.
No, it's not.
Then they get him up onto the boat, and they notice something else. His legs have been bitten off from mid-shin down.
Okay,
They're
so this is I was going to ask you earlier if there's like a big difference between a white shark and a great white shark. This one sounds pretty great.
Yeah. No, when I say white shark, that's a great white shark. I don't think that there is.
It's taken some sizable bites.
Yeah. So he's dead before they reach the beach.
Yeah.
He's bled out. All right, the final day of the attacks. Ready for this? July 12th, 1916. In Matawan, New Jersey, 16 miles inland from the coast, there's a little creek that local boys and girls like to swim in. Fresh water, not salt water.
Yeah.
Interesting to keep in mind. 12-year-old Lester Stillwell worked as a basket maker at a local peach factory.
This is great.
But it was a hot summer day, and the factory owner said, hey, kid, you've been working hard on your baskets. You can go home early today if you want. So Lester gathers up 2 of his friends, and they go down to the creek.
Like you do.
Yeah. So they're swimming around, and they see something that they describe as kind of brownish, and they thought it was a log or maybe some driftwood floating around in the water. but they just didn't really pay it any mind because they just thought it was wood. And Lester decides he's going to float on his back. And he says, hey, guys, watch this. And he swims out floating on his back. And he's just looking up, floating, and, whatever. And the other boys are messing around. Then the other two boys see a fin pop out of the water. Now, they had heard about the shark attacks. Because they were big news.
Sure.
And kind of a mass hysteria came up. But they're playing in a little local creek, not out in the open ocean.
But just for a second,
yeah.
How old are these kids?
I don't know how the other two were, but Lester is 12, so around that age.
I thought this was a grown adult saying, hey guys, watch this, I can float. And I was confused.
No.
All right, go on.
So they see the shark fin rise up, and then they hear Lester scream and then go down. So immediately, the two other boys run out of the water, screaming into town that Lester's been taken by a shark. He's been eaten by a shark. The thing about Lester, though, and apparently the townspeople knew this, he was epileptic. So the first man who responded, 24-year-old Stanley Fisher, who was a local tailor, runs to the creek thinking, well, this is a creek. There's no shark in there. The boy probably had a seizure. And, the kids just freaked out with all the shark news and everything. I'll go in and find him because he's probably at the bottom of the ocean, seizing. And he can't swim because he can't control his own body and he's drowning. So he very heroically jumps into the water and starts diving down to the bottom, where he eventually does find Lester's body and brings it back up to the shore. However,
it's missing some bits.
Well, and as he's doing so, the shark comes back.
Oh.
And kills...
It's all part of my plan.
Stanley Fisher.
I wanted Stanley the whole time.
Stanley found Lester's body on the bottom of the creek. And when he gets attacked, he gets bit in the right thigh, and the shark drags him into the water. He drops Lester, and Lester's body is lost for 2 days till it washes up downstream. But actually, Stanley Fisher is able to make it out of the water. But he later bleeds to death in the hospital. Half an hour later, and half a mile up the creek, another 12-year-old named Joseph Dunn is also attacked by the shark.
Jeepers, man. I'm sure we'll get to it.
He is the only survivor of the attacks. He actually lives, but his left leg is torn apart.
Yeah, so this is a thigh-hungry shark.
Yeah.
If we can say that it was definitely the same one, I guess.
Well, yeah, we'll get into all of that. The attacks covered 95 miles over 12 days. At this point, they finally closed the beaches. And they began to raise funds for a reward for anybody who could catch this man-eating shark, which they now called
I can't wait for this.
the Jesey Man-Eater.
Wait, I have heard that.
Yeah.
I guess I have heard of
the Jesey
Man-Eater.
Man-Eater.
I didn't realize the context.
So now townspeople all over the place are going out and fishing, or going out with shotguns, or going out with dynamite.
I can only imagine just the cadre of complete loons. Who
Yeah, there's pictures, and they will be on spookyashit.com.
Oh man, I'm gonna look at those.
But there's pictures of like a group of women like holding their shotguns into the water, and men throwing dynamite in.
This is how we do it where I come from.
You just give them an
Where do you
excuse,
come
and
from?
people will
North Jersey.
people will just go crazy,
Oh man,
blowing shit up.
Yep, love it.
But one man stood out above all the rest.
Yes,
You're gonna like this.
I am.
On July 14th, a lion tamer
Yes.
named Michael Schleiser is fishing in Raritan Bay which is the very same bay that feeds into the Matawan Creek, where the last 3 attacks happened.
Sure.
His boat hit something large. And when they look, they notice that a shark, a great white, is entangled in their fishing net, and it begins to struggle violently, almost sinking the boat, as a matter of fact. The shark jumps into the boat.
What?
And the men are unprepared.
Well, yeah, you might be.
So they start punching it.
I like everything about this.
And then they eventually get the idea to start hitting it with their oars.
Yeah.
So they're punching it and hitting it with oars.
Yeah.
Shark's staying alive.
Well, yeah, you're probably not gonna knock out a shark,
but as they're punching and hitting this shark, one of the oars breaks. So then Michael Schleicher says, "Aha, now I've got you," and he shanks the shark with a broken oar, which kills it.
Well, there you go.
So they tow the shark in, and they find out it's a 7.5-foot great white. It's 400 pounds, and it's a lady shark.
All right.
They cut it open on the shore and find human remains. The attacks stop after this capture.
Mm-hmm. So we're at the end of Act 2 of Jaws right now.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Well, except in real life, that really is the end
Oh.
of the attacks.
Well, nuts. So did this guy get the reward?
I believe he did. I think it was a $2,000 reward. No, it was a $100 reward, which is equal to about $2,000 something today.
Well, I suppose that's not a bad day's work. 'Cause it sounds like he was not at all trying to find this shark. He was just
it's hard to
doing
say
his
because
job.
he was an adventurer. They talk about him like being a big game hunter and stuff, and he
Yeah.
was a lion tamer. But
Well, we'll just go out fishing, and if we happen to catch a great white shark, I mean, it's all gravy, right?
yeah.
I think that actually improves upon the climax. Like, it's cool for the shark to blow up, but I would have enjoyed a scene where people were just physically
Just
punching
wailing
a
on the
great
shark.
white shark. That would have been fantastic.
There's a zombie movie where a zombie fights a shark.
Is it called Zombie Shark?
No. I'm sure that is a movie.
It
But,
probably is.
so first of all, we're going to talk about whether it was a bull shark or whether it was a great white shark. And we're going to talk about a few other things. But it would be remiss to mention that, in general, sharks are not a threat to people. You are more likely to be struck by lightning than to die in a shark attack. There are, on average, 5 fatal shark attacks per year in the world.
Yeah.
So,
That's about right.
sharks are pretty mellow most of the time. If you are worried about sharks,
I am.
I have some tips for you
Okay, good.
on how to avoid getting eaten by a shark.
Excellent.
First, don't swim alone.
Okay.
If you're easy prey, it's more likely that you'll be attacked by a shark. And you should wear bright colors when you swim.
All right. New swimsuit this year.
Yeah, 90% of shark attack victims were wearing dark-colored bathing suits.
That's weird. So it's that like easier to see?
I think what it is you look more like a seal.
Okay.
Because a human swimming, their legs kind of, because they have, seals have the fins
Yeah.
on the back that kind of look like loose, ugly feet.
Yeah.
So I think if you're dark colored and a shark looks up and sees something splashing relatively seal-like and doesn't see like a bright green glow to you that said, hey, that's not a seal. And don't go swimming with your dog, because your dog's erratic movements may seem like an animal in distress, which a shark can pick up on.
Interesting. All right.
Sharks have
Wow, okay.
an amazing sense of smell.
I've heard that.
And they can smell things from miles away.
From 45 miles away.
So if you bleed in the ocean, that's bad news.
First of all, yeah, don't. Try not to bleed in the ocean.
Don't bleed in the ocean.
Don't play bloody knuckles in the ocean.
They also can sense electromagnetic pulses and fields.
Oh, man, they're awesome.
They are. And again, from miles away. They can feel your heartbeat in the water.
What the hell? That's great.
Yeah.
I
So
like
they
that
have
a
these
lot.
weird superpowers.
Yeah.
That's what you get for being an apex predator for millions of years. They were around before dinosaurs.
Ah, no wonder Deep Blue Sea was such a huge hit. Monster hit.
Yeah. So before we get on, we're going to talk about the book Jaws versus the movie Jaws, too. Because actually, just by coincidence, I happen to have just read the book.
Summer reading.
Yeah. But before we do that, let's talk about whether it was a bull shark or a great white shark involved in these attacks. Now, the case for the bull shark, the most strong case is that the bull shark can survive in fresh or salt water. It can be in the ocean or it can be in fresh water, like, say, a creek in Mattawan.
Sure.
No problem. They are known to be aggressive. And their style of bite is consistent with the Mattawan attacks. The injuries described in the Mattawan attacks.
Okay.
I guess the big difference is that a great white, when it bites, leaves a very neat incision. However, a bull shark will shred you up a little bit more.
Yeah. Gross.
But the case for the great white is that the attack style were very typical of a great white's modus operandi.
Okay.
Sneaking up from behind or below and
Yeah.
coming in and taking a single chomp. However, I would imagine that's probably true of...
Well, I was going to say, what does a bull shark do?
Bull shark just
It's like sitting on the beach. How you doing?
Yeah. And they great whites migrate along the East Coast during early summer, which is when these attacks took place. So they're in the right area at that time. And their bite pattern is consistent with all the other attacks, the non-Mattawan attacks. Specifically, the one they talk about is the second attack, where the guy had his legs bit off.
Yeah. That was
I
a
guess
big
there's a
bite.
good description. Now, you might think, well, maybe it's a great white in the open ocean, and maybe it's a bull shark in Mattawan. Maybe they're separate sharks.
I did think that.
It's a possibility. It's a possibility that none of these attacks were committed by the same shark.
Yeah.
However, I find that unlikely because these kind of attacks haven't happened before or since. There hasn't been like a couple weeks where like just people were getting attacked by sharks left and right.
So, like, evolutionarily, we just managed to produce one asshole shark who, for a couple of weeks in July 1916.
I mean, there have been known to be like killer lions that go out and just kill other lions and stuff like that, seemingly just because. And there are certainly people
well, yes.
who go a little left to center from time to time.
Every
So,
now and then.
If the pattern happens in one animal species, it's not impossible that it would happen. I don't think that they specifically sought human targets, but maybe the shark just went crazy and didn't know where it was.
Yeah.
And was just attacking
I can
whatever
go with
was
that.
near it. Now, it's still possible that there was a great white in the Mattawan attacks because they've recently done some testing on the water's salinity, means how much salt is in the water. And they find that on a normal day, in the early morning, no, there's not enough salt in the water for a great white to survive. However, when we're close to or at a full moon, the tide is higher, comes in more, there's more salt in the creek water. They found that it actually is salty enough for a small shark, relatively small shark, to survive in that water. And the great white that was captured near Matawan was only 7 feet long. A full-grown great white can get up to 20 feet.
Yeah, 20 feet. You're not punching that one.
No. But a 7 foot?
Yeah, punch away.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like, to me, the idea that it wasn't just one shark sort of makes the most sense. Until, like I said, you consider that these attacks are very rare, so it would be amazingly random and coincidental that several sharks happened to attack one summer in a relatively small area.
I guess so, yeah.
Because it didn't happen before, as far as we know, and it hasn't happened since. And then this guy catches a shark, a great white, and they find human remains in it, and the attacks stop.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I kind of lean towards maybe it was just that one great white.
I'm fine with it.
I'm open to the other possibilities still.
Yeah.
I'm certainly no shark expert, although when I had television and cable, my brother and I watched Shark Week very intensely.
Every week.
Every week, like Shark Week.
Just tape Shark Week. And
it's always the same stuff. Like, sharks aren't that bad, but here's a show about them attacking.
But they totally fucking are in this one.
Air Jaws. That was literally a show.
They kind of took that to its logical conclusion.
Yeah.
Sharknado.
Yeah. So now I want to talk about the book Jaws and the movie Jaws.
Welcome back to another episode of Movie versus Book.
Yeah.
With Eric Durnells.
Because they, well, first of all, they keep saying that Peter Benchley, who wrote Jaws, is the man who like inspired the fear of sharks.
Like,
and
in general?
Yeah, and his quote on it was, "I didn't create a fear. I just exploited one that was already there."
Well, at least he's upfront about that.
Yeah. And I would imagine that after these 1916 shark attacks, people were pretty afraid of sharks. I recently read the book, and it's really not that much different from the movie. And it basically, like you said, kind of follows the first part of the first part of the book and the movie, kind of follows what happened in the 1916 attacks.
Yeah.
Except in the movie, of course, when they do catch a shark, the first one, they find out it was not the right shark.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Too late.
Spoilers for
the movie's
40-year-old movie.
I was going to say 40 years old, so if you haven't seen it by now, shame on you. It's summer. It's the perfect time to watch it. Go for it. It's a really good summer movie. But this doesn't have anything to do with sharks, but one of the things that bugged me the most about the book is there's
pros, am I right?
What's that?
The pros.
Yeah. There's a whole subplot of now I'm blanking on the names. Richard Dreyfuss's character.
I don't know. I haven't seen Jaws.
Richard Dreyfuss's character sleeping with the sheriff's wife.
So he's shoehorned in a romantic subplot?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Need it, especially in a book. We knew you were tired of all that, dismemberment and fear, so let's do some rom-com
It's a really uncomfortable scene, too. And maybe it's just because I'm picturing... Like, they don't... In the book, he's not described as looking like Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be like this really hot, like, 24-year-old scientist guy who's, like, comes from a wealthy family and, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I just picture Richard Dreyfuss. And there's
Yeah,
a whole scene where they're, like, in a restaurant and they're just, like... It's gross. It's just gross.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway.
I believe you.
I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's like more differences between the book and the movie. I guess again I'll say spoiler alert for both the book and the movie, but they end very differently.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
How does How's the book end?
Not with a big explosion.
Yeah.
Quint dies just like he does in the movie. Well, not exactly. He doesn't die the same way, but
Yeah.
he dies fighting the shark. And Richard Dreyfuss's character, in the movie he goes in the shark cage.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, he doesn't come back from that trip.
Ah.
In the movie, he pops up at the end.
Yeah.
And they swim to the beach together. That doesn't happen. But you're kind of glad because he was kind of a dick.
Yep.
Yeah. The sheriff's the only one who survives. And he just kills the shark. I think he just stabs it or something.
One stab?
And the book literally just ends. There's no after or anything like that.
There's no epilogue.
It's just Brody killed the shark and he was like, that was
Period.
rough.
The end. Yep. Next.
Yeah. So, but it's a good book. And the movie's great. We could do a whole nother episode talking about the movie, but we won't do that now. Maybe next summer. Yeah, so this was kind of a weird topic for spooky ass shit because usually we do something with a paranormal theme. But I want people to remember, spooky doesn't just mean paranormal. Getting eaten by a shark is pretty spooky.
Yeah, and you can tie in a little mass hysteria there, which is kind of a recurring theme on this.
Yeah, you give people a reason. They run out there. Ready for a hunt.
I'm actually really disappointed that even though he was a lion tamer, it's really cool that he was a lion tamer.
You wanted more of a...
I wanted I wanted a mission from God or something. Or what? I remember being taken with the occupations of the first 3 victims because it was like an accountant, a bellman, and then a 12-year-old basket maker. What's the pattern? I wanted a detective story. I mean, it's just a guy out fishing.
Yeah.
There's a shark. You guys want to punch this thing? Yeah, you do. Let's punch it. I mean, that's pretty cool. But so they tacked on the 3rd act, I guess. That makes a better story.
Yeah.
A little red herring, a little left turn. I'm into it. No, I did not know that was inspired by true events, as they say.
Yeah, the Summer of Terror, 12 Weeks of Terror, the Jesey Man-Eater.
And of course, it was on the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Naturally. I've been to the Jersey Shore.
Where is it when we needed it when that show was out, huh?
You'll make it in comedy yet, Eric.
Yeah. Man, oh man. All right, anything else to say about sharks?
No. Just I was a shark kid when I was a kid. I remember making a poster about sharks. I can't remember what grade I was in, but there were shark facts on my shark poster. This is back in the day when there weren't really computers everywhere, so you were cutting things out of magazines you found at the library.
You had to find that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was never afraid of sharks per se. I do have a thing with water.
You don't like fish?
Yeah.
In several different ways you don't like fish.
Should I talk about that? I guess I might as well. I may end up editing out, or you're all going to learn.
Inside. No, behind the spook.
Yeah, well, I don't eat seafood. And people always ask me why, because, we live in Massachusetts, pretty close to the coast and everything here. And it's known for its seafood. And they're like, you could have fresh lobster, and I'm like, I don't eat any kind of seafood. Nothing. No shrimp, no tuna fish, nothing.
No sea cucumbers?
No. So then people wonder why, and usually I'll just be like, oh, allergy or, something. But if it's someone I know well enough, I'll be like, well, I just don't like fish. What do you mean? I don't know, I just don't like fish. They're ugly. And my biggest problem with them is that they live in the ocean. So I think of them. All right.
Yeah, fuck you,
listen.
fish.
I know. I am aware that this sounds a little crazy.
It's not crazy. It's just I would
but
say
if you follow me, it will make perfect sense.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Here's why the ocean is super gross. And why it makes fish and not, other things in the ocean super gross. First of all, It's been around forever. Remember that.
Forever.
Yeah. And just think of all the things that have died in the ocean. And they're all still there.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about, like, not just sea life, which is gross enough. And by the way, they shit and piss in the ocean.
Well, I mean, I do too.
Okay. And now...
I actually can't think of a time I've shit in the ocean. Just FYI.
Then we have people who have died in the ocean.
Sure.
And shit and pissed, as you say. And then, like, ships that have gone down and, like, all sorts of, people. There's dead bodies in the ocean. Now, water moves all around. But a fish has to breathe water. And they're submerged in water their whole life.
Yeah.
So they're absorbing all of this gross ocean water. Their entire life. They're rooting around in dead people, whale sperm, and like just shit and piss and gross dead things all the time.
So it seems to mostly be the bodily fluids that's putting you off here.
Yes, because even when you go swimming in a pool, think about this when you're in the pool. When you go swimming in a pool...
There's no whale semen in my
that
pool.
water, and I don't care how...
I know.
You can tell me it's chlorinated and it kills everything, and maybe it does. It's not... I mean, I'll go in a pool. I'll even go in the ocean. Like, I'm not... but I'm just saying I have reservations about it.
Yeah.
And this is why. When you go in the pool, that water is going in and out of everybody else in that pool. Not to mention the people who are peeing in the pool or whatever else.
Yeah.
And when you splash somebody, usually you go right down in front to get the water and splash it out. That is your crotch water. You were throwing crotch water at people.
Well, yeah. Yeah, man.
Brian's all for it.
I'm into it. Well,
like I said,
I don't have the background to explain this at all, but
Oh.
there is a certain...
you're going to tell me like parts per million and water
well, not
dissolves.
even that.
And
That is involved, but like the ocean has been around forever, and minus maybe the human dead bodies and metal things that we have decided to sink in there. It is a very efficient ecosystem, and so I wouldn't worry about like the dead fish and the fish poop, and
I'm just saying,
because it may sound crazy, but there are like organisms that live exclusively on fish poop.
Oh, I don't. Whatever.
Is this becoming a debate?
Don't make me sound like an asshole when I'm trying to defend.
I'm not.
Because the
There's
problem is,
nothing wrong with your being put off by fish.
I've literally never eaten fish. I've had tuna fish.
There's no way you've literally never eaten fish.
I've had tuna fish.
Yeah.
And I think I had sizzling shrimp one time when I was real young. And I had shrimp like in pad thai. Because I was on a date and I didn't want to look like a weirdo picking out all the shrimp, and I forgot to ask for them not to put it in. So I ate it. And I never had another date with that girl, so it's for nothing.
That was so traumatic. You were like, sorry, this isn't going to work.
Yeah. All for nothing.
Yeah, well.
And people ask me where this came from, if I've had like fish trauma in my life. And the answer is like yes, I have. I don't know which came first, but I do remember that these things happened when I was a child.
Okay.
When I was a little kid, my mom used to run like a daycare out of the house. And every once in a while, she'd bring us to the supermarket. Me and the other kids. And being like typical little boys, like me and this kid Joseph, we loved like gross things, and like we loved reading about like naughty children. Like we had a book of home repair, and we'd always turn to the page where the kid was drawing on the walls. We never did it, but we were just like, oh, look at that kid, like he's being bad.
Yeah.
Like we know that kid's being bad. And I loved like Hansel and Gretel because they like put the witch in the oven. Yeah, I don't know why I'm twisted.
Wow, all right.
But anyway, so when we went to the supermarket, our favorite thing to do was to go look at the dead fish on display.
Oh, wow. So you used to love looking at fish.
I used to go and look at them. We'd be like, look at those fish. They're dead. And they're gross and they look stupid. And I remember doing that like a lot, but then one time we were doing it, and unbeknownst to us, the man behind the counter, when we stood up, he was dangling a dead fish over our heads. So when we stood up, it was like hit us in the head, like right at eye level.
Mm-hmm.
And we freaked out and ran, like screamed and ran.
Yeah.
Because at least before it was behind glass. Now it's in our face.
I can see that.
So that
I
might...
can see that being very traumatic, but I can also understand what was going through his head too.
Yeah.
I would have thought that was really funny too.
Yeah. Especially if they screamed and ran away.
Fucking shitty kids.
Yeah.
Go making fun of my fish? What is that? Who does that? I'll show them. I'll scar them for life.
So another thing is I used to go, even though I didn't like fish, I used to go fishing with my uncle because he was super into fishing. And I didn't have a dad. So it was nice to have an uncle and like try to bond with him and stuff. So he'd take me and my cousin fishing. And I could bait the hook and everything, but I actually liked reeling in the fish. I liked that part. But once it came up, I was like, you got to handle this. You take it off the hook. I ain't touching that fish. It's gross. You know. And by the way, I just want to say I'm not afraid of fish. It's not like I'm not like, ooh, the fish is going to bite me or like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why I'd be afraid of a fish. But I'm not afraid of fish. I just think they're gross. So he would take it off the hook, but sometimes he would take it off the hook and throw it at my head. So I just have like a bass coming at my head.
He's trying to, I guess he was trying to help you get over it.
Yeah, and he would laugh his ass off.
Oh, no, okay. So that was just for him.
Yeah, no, it's just because he was kind of an asshole.
Nailed you.
Yeah.
I got fish on you.
So those are my fish tales.
All right.
So yeah, I'm not a fan of fish. But see, I'd actually do better with a shark because sharks don't look as gross as a lot of fish.
Really? I disagree. I think they're very off-putting.
No, I mean, they look like primal and they, you know, but...
Are we eating a shark in this?
No, just like if I had to touch one.
Oh, well, yeah, they feel like sandpaper anyway, so you're good.
Well, I'm not even, but I'm just, yeah, like, I don't know. Like, I'm thinking of like a bass or something. They look gross. And then like you go to the aquarium and they're not, like most of them aren't even, like if people have like a saltwater tank, those are pretty fish most of the time. Right? Like a clownfish or whatever. Depends. I don't know what kind of fish
the more exotic ones are more interesting looking.
Right. The bright colors and everything. Like, I get that. Those fish can be cool to look at. But here at the Boston Aquarium anyway, it's mostly just like big fucking brown fish. Who gives a shit? A ray is cool. Do. I like rays.
A nurse shark swimming around.
Sharks are better, yeah. I could handle a whale. But you're like run-of-the-mill fish.
I think rays are much more disturbing looking than fish are. Like, they're just fish. It's whatever. They're not necessarily exciting. I see like the underside of a ray. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, it is weird looking.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've been still cooler with them. Maybe that's my main problem with fish. Is they're just ugly. Okay. And dumb looking. They do look pretty dumb, most of them.
This has been another episode of Fuck Fish with Eric Dornells. Just fuck them.
It's all of this spooky enough for you people.
All right.
I guess we should wrap it up.
Probably.
Okay, so there was that. Me and Brian Toney talking about the Jesey Man-Eater, the true story of Jaws. And of course, I forgot, this is the infamous episode where I talk about my disdain for fish. And yes, that's still true. I have eaten tuna fish, and I still do once in a great while, if there's nothing else available, which is pretty rare. And yeah, otherwise I'm not a huge fan of fish. eating them or swimming near them or anything like that. I don't mind seeing them in the aquarium. But other than that, no, I'm not a fish guy. So that's my stance. If that's a deal breaker for you, do you think that makes me some kind of speciesist or something like that? Well, look, I am what I am. Until next time, don't be afraid.
Spooky Times is a Witchfinder production.